Hi, this is attorney James Betzold, and we're doing just a brief update today on one of the most important petitions that can be filed with immigration. And that petition is the 601A Provisional Waiver. Now, for many individuals, when going through the immigration process, what we in our office call a typical immigration process is going to consist of 3 steps. Now, this is one of the most common cases that we're dealing with, which is why we call it typical. When, let's make a scenario, we're dealing with a client who entered the United States without permission, subsequently gets married or has a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse who wants to petition for them. They're going to need to file a family petition. That's step 1. And step 2 is going to be the 601A Provisional Waiver. And this is going to forgive their unlawful presence in the United States and will get rid of that 10-year bar. Now, that I-601A is an essential part of their case. And what that lets you do is that you obtain this waiver in the United States while you're waiting for the rest of the process to play out, so that when the individual goes to the consulate interview, they don't have to wait 18 months or a year or some long period of time. It could be a week or a few days, and then they can be on their way back to the United States. So the 601A Provisional Waiver is very important for that purpose. Now, one of the problems that we've seen with immigration recently is for the last year or two, it used to be that these petitions would be approved in 3 or 4 months. Now we're seeing that time period go up to, the published number today is 43.5 months, right? So if we go and look at the USCIS website, it says 43 and a half months. That's 3.6 years that you're going to need to wait for that provisional waiver. Now, it doesn't mean that your attorney did something wrong. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong if you filed it on your own. It just means that since Trump became president and gummed up the works between what he did and between the happenings of COVID and whatnot, things got slow. And so the announcement today is not that that's fixed. It's not fixed yet. However, there are lawsuits pending in federal courts in order to force the government to go faster. Now, what that means for you is when we look at the processing times of other petitions, for example, if we look at a family petition, that petition could take 14 months for the government to approve. Okay. Again, those used to take 3 or 4 months. Now they're taking a year, 14 months. But the point is, hopefully, by the time, let's say you file a family petition today, in 14 months, we hope this other situation with the government to be resolved. There's no guarantee of that, but that's definitely what we want all of you to know today, is that if you're starting the process today, then hopefully by the time you get to the 601A provisional waiver that you need to file, processing times will be reasonable again. Again, right now they're at 3.625 years. So a little more than 3.5 years, you're just waiting for the government to decide. Now, what else could this mean for you? Well, you have a couple of options. If your priority is just getting your green card as quick as possible, you might actually choose to file the 601 waiver after your interview in the consulate in the foreign country. So this could be if you're from Mexico, you need to go to Ciudad Juarez. If you're from Honduras, you're going to go to Tegucigalpa, El Salvador, or San Salvador, where the U.S. consulate is. If you don't want to wait 3.6 years for your provisional waiver to be approved, you do have the option of going to the interview, them telling you that you're inadmissible, and to file the I-601 waiver instead. It's a viable option. It's not quick either. However, it's not at the 3.6 year mark. So like I said, the 601A, we're looking at 43 and a half months for that to be approved. If we're looking at the I-601, which is the name of the waiver you would need to file at the end of your process after going to the U.S. consulate, current published times for that are 22.5 months. So about 20 months less, but that is time you're going to be waiting outside of the United States, you or your loved one, I guess, if you're petitioning for a loved one. Not a great option either. And I would say among all the clients I've dealt with, all of them have said, well, it's more important for me to be here with my family in the meantime. It's less important that it happens quicker. So if they've been waiting 15 years, 3.6 more years for a waiver is a bummer, but it's still doable. So there's lawsuits pending right now. There's one in the Ninth Circuit that was filed by some petitioners who sued and said there is an unreasonable delay in approving these petitions. And they had oral arguments back in December, so we're still waiting on that case to move forward. There's another suit that was filed. If we pick up the information here, it's called Guevara Enriquez v. USCIS in the Western District of Washington. They were actually seeking class action status. So they filed for class certification. The case has bumped from one judge to another judge, and the government in that case, even though they're a Democrat administration, they still filed oppositions to these cases saying, hey, we don't want the judge or the people to tell us how long we should take. We want to take our sweet time, and however long it takes is however long it takes. That's a government bureaucracy at work for you, and not something that ever works in the name of efficiency, let's say. So that case is effectively on hold until this other case at the Ninth Circuit, which oral arguments were heard just back in December, until that gets resolved. Then this court will say, well, okay, we see what happened there, and either we're going to agree or disagree or do this or that, and then it'll move forward from there. I would hope that that gets resolved in 14 months. That may be optimistic, but here's the thing. When you're undocumented and you're living in the United States and there's literally no other option for you, even though it's going to take 3.6 years for a 601A waiver to be approved, it'll probably take longer the longer you wait. And if we get that family petition filed right away, well, we're chipping away at the time you'd have to wait. So that's the brief update. There's lawsuits in place to help this situation. There's really nothing else to do except hurry up and wait. I'm attorney James Betzold, and if you need a great immigration attorney because yours isn't working out or you haven't found one yet, contact our office. Our number is 616-396-9418. We do meet with clients locally here in the state of Michigan. We will also meet with clients via Zoom, via telephone. We do phone consultations, FaceTime consultations. Video conferencing is really the way of the world today. So I would be happy to meet with you, either myself or attorney Greg Vanderwood. Gather some information and see what your immigration plan needs to look like. Again, you can see our number here on the screen, 616-396-9418. Our webpage, you can find us either at visafeliz.com or betzoldlaw.com. Hope you have a great Sunday. Enjoy that Super Bowl. Bye.